morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think. Depends upon indulging dreams of having what you have not, but to reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess, and then thankfully remember how you would crave them if they were not yours. Finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. Here is a rule to remember in future when anything tempts you to feel bitter. Not, this is misfortune, but to bear this worthily is good fortune. Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs? You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. To live a good life, we all have the potential for it if we learn to be indifferent to what makes no difference. Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now, take what's left and live it properly. Death smiles at us all, but all a man can do is smile back. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought, for the human spirit is colored by such impressions. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. It is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. A man's true delight is to do the things he was made for. True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future, not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient. For he that is so wants nothing. Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life. It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult. We all sorely complain of the shortness of Every night, before going to sleep, we must ask ourselves, what weakness did I overcome today? What virtue did I acquire? Throw me to the wolves, and I will return leading the pack. Life is never incomplete if it is an honorable one. At whatever point you leave life, if you leave it in the right way, it is whole. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. You want to live, but do you know how to live? You are scared of dying, but tell me, is the kind of life you lead really any different to being dead? The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. A wise man is contented with his lot, whatever it may be. Man is affected not by events, but by the view he takes of them. As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters. So is life. Sometimes even to live is an act of courage. If you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person. Until we have begun to go without them, we fail to realize how unnecessary many things are. We've been using them not because we needed them, but because we had them. He suffers more than necessary who suffers before it is necessary. Hang on to your youthful enthusiasms. You'll be able to use them better when you are older. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. From this instant on, vow to stop disappointing yourself. Separate yourself from the mob. Decide to be extraordinary and do what you need to do now. What ought one to say that practicing for this? I was training for this. Fortify yourself with moderation, for this is an impenetrable fortress. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I will answer that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen. First, say to you, and then do what you have to do. Attach yourself to what is spiritually superior, regardless of what other people think or do. Hold to your true aspirations, no matter what is going on around you. You may fetter my leg, but Zeus himself cannot get the better of my free will. Seek not the good in external things, seek it in yourselves. On the occasion of every accident that befalls you, remember to turn to yourself and inquire what power you have for turning it to use. It is the nature of the wise to resist pleasures, but the foolish to be a slave to them. Caretake this moment, immerse yourself in its particulars, respond to this person, this challenge, this deed. Quit evasions, stop giving yourself needless trouble. It is time to really live. If you want to be a writer, write. The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. Be discriminating about what images and ideas you permit into your mind. No man is free who is not a master of himself. If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, "He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone." It is impossible to begin to learn that which one thinks one already knows. Do not seek to have events happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do happen, and all will be well with you. Never depend on the admiration of others. There is no strength in it. Personal merit cannot be derived from an external source.
Ngayon, di lang depensang panglabas, dapat pati panloob.
Mag-View Bear Brand Paddle Plus.
I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. Carl Jung. The sad reality of most human beings is just that. Most people do believe they are what happened to them. Most people equate self-worth with their past, with their achievements, with how other people view them. But we are none of those things. We are, as Jung puts it, who we choose to become. We are all one decision away. Us is never a choice, but how we every moment, including adversities, will determine the quality of our life. Leave your past behind and decide today, now, who you will be from this and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Why do bad things keep happening to me, some say? Why do the same negative kind of people keep appearing in my life? The unconscious, or rather subconscious, controls almost all human behavior. It has been said that almost all brain activity happens on a subconscious level. The problem is, Most people do not understand this basic principle and therefore are running their life on autopilot, repeating the same reactions and responses, and often repeating the same problems over and over again in a figure-8 loop. Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Until you change the reactions, responses, and actions you've conditioned into yourself unconsciously, you won't see different outcomes in your life. Until you learn why you are acting in a certain way, you'll never be able to act better. Until we learn why we feel a certain way on a consistent basis, we will not be able to consistently feel better in any way. You need to step back and examine your life. Examine you. What feelings, behaviors, habits, and actions are running on autopilot? What can you bring forward to the light, into your consciousness, into your presence? If you can manage that, you can start changing those habits consciously. With repetition, you can reprogram these new habits, feelings, and behaviors into your new subconscious program. Better habits, better reactions, better outcomes. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness. And the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. It is far better to take things as they come along with patience and equanimity. The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. Carl Jung. Without the contrast of sadness, happiness does not exist. Without dark, there is no light. A happy life, then, is not one without sadness or misery or failures or problems. A happy life, a full life, is a life with meaning. If you had in your possession every penny on earth and all the material possessions you desire, it would still give you no guarantees of happiness and certainly no meaning. You don't need things, money, or possessions to have meaning. For a rich, you can trust because there is always a brighter future to work toward, to believe in tomorrow. Meaning and purpose give you enthusiasm for living and purpose, and accept every inevitable challenge that comes your way. It all depends on how we look at things and not how they are in themselves. Carl Jung. Whatever happens in your life is not reality, but rather your interpretation of it. Let me repeat. Whatever happens is not reality, but your interpretation of reality. On one of your best days, a challenge appears, and you deal with it with presence, with confidence, with competence. Then the challenge disappears, perhaps even turns into a blessing, a new understanding. On one of your worst days, the same
Buddhism has evolved into one of the world's major religions, with many schools and branches. But if we go back to the source, Gautama Buddha, who was born as a prince that later became enlightened and known as the Buddha, we find a collection of teachings named the Dhammapada. The Dhammapada contains some profound wisdom for those who seek a tranquil mind. So, after Stoicism and Taoism, a video about Buddhist wisdom for inner peace certainly cannot be missed. One, attachment leads to suffering. This is one of the basic teachings in Buddhism. We suffer because we attach ourselves to external things, which, in essence, are beyond our control. By doing this, we actually resist the fundamental truth about existence. Change is the only constant. Our youth and looks fade with time. The people we love will disappear. Our success, well, on YouTube, for example, will end one day. The key is to have a deep appreciation for what's happening in the moment, while acknowledging its impermanence and willingness to let it go. I quote the Buddha. The good renounce attachment for everything. The virtuous do not prattle with a yearning for pleasures. The wise show no elation or depression when touched by happiness or sorrow. 2. Desiring the right things. Another basic Buddhist teaching is that deep desire, also known as craving and lust, poisons the mind and makes us restless and even sick. However, this doesn't mean that we should aim to destroy desire completely. Even Buddhist monks desire, which is a deep desire for enlightenment. And you might be interested in Buddhism because you desire relief from pain. So there's nothing wrong with desire in itself. The key is to desire the right things and to arm ourselves against the wrong things that lead us astray. In Buddhism, this means training the mind. I quote the Buddha. Just as rain breaks through an ill-thatched house, so passion penetrates an undeveloped mind. Just as rain does not break through a well-thatched house, so passion never penetrates a well-developed mind. 3. Pursuing sensual pleasures leads to suffering. What we shouldn't crave for, according to Buddhism, are sensual pleasures. Sensual pleasures aren't wrong in itself, but one's indulgence in them can become a source of evil. Things like greed, gluttony, and addiction stem from cravings to fulfill sensual pleasures. When the pursuit of sensual pleasures controls our lives, we will become easily seduced by a demon called Mara, who leads us into committing evil and basically keeps us in misery. Satisfaction and cravings generated by chasing sensuality to be more compassionate and also more creative. For example, I wouldn't be able to make these videos if I didn't experience deep suffering in the past. I quote, upon a heap of rubbish in the roadside ditch blooms a lotus, fragrant and pleasing. 5. Good company is important. Comparable to the Stoics, the Buddha advises us to hang out with wise and positive people, preferably people that also follow the path to enlightenment. For those that are serious about Buddhism, this means seeking the company of a Buddhist community or even becoming a monk or nun. Now, the last isn't for everyone, of course. The Buddha goes as far as saying that we are better off in solitude than to be in the company of foolish people or those that have a bad influence on us. And I personally think that's sound advice. I quote, better it is to live alone. There's no fellowship with a fool. Live alone and do no evil. Be carefree like an elephant in the elephant forest. 6. A trained mind leads to happiness. Stone of is meditation. The goal of meditation is achieving encumbered by cravings and by the past or future. This is where happiness lies. I quote, "He who delights in subduing evil thoughts, who meditates on the impurities and is ever mindful, it is he who will make an end of craving and rend asunder Mara's fetter." 7. Short-term evil has long-term consequences. Many things we do don't bring about pain instantly. Indulging the senses, for example, may give us short-term pleasure without the immediate punishment of pain. Also, lies, deceit, manipulation, and even theft can lead to immediate pleasure or avoidance of pain. But in the long run, the consequences of evil will catch up to us. We may have become addicted, so our life Mastery of the world is achieved by letting things take their natural course. You cannot master the world by changing the natural way. Lao Tzu. Our civilization is in a state of ongoing strivings, in which control seems to be the highest virtue. We don't have to look far to observe this. In the workplace, for example, employees are more and more controlled and supervised. Especially now we have the technology to do so. And governments put more effort into tracking their citizens, whether it's through camera supervision or the proposal of a so-called social credit system. Ironically, the latter is a Chinese against a philosophy that emerged from the same soil. The Tao Te Ching, the main Taoist scripture, was written by a mysterious sage named Lao Tzu. There are countless ways in which we can interpret this text. One way is to see it as a guide for a ruler. What characterizes the passages of the Tao Te Ching regarding governance is that Lao Tzu puts emphasis on ruling by not ruling, as he compared governing a country with frying a small fish. Too much poking spoils the meat. He argued that when a ruler tightens his grip on the people, all kinds of negative side effects will occur. We see that people become distrustful towards one another.
Life isn't fair, but it's still good. When in doubt, just take the next small step. Life is too short to waste time hating anyone. Don't take yourself so seriously. No one else does. Pay off your credit cards every month. You don't have to win every argument. Agree to disagree. Cry with someone. It's more healing than crying alone. Save for retirement, starting with your first payslip. When it comes to chocolate, resistance is futile. Make peace with your past so it won't screw up the present. It's okay to let your children see you cry. Don't compare your life to others. You have no idea what their journey is all about. If a relationship has to be secret, you shouldn't be in it. Life is too short for long pity parties. Get busy living, or get busy dying. You can get through anything if you stay put in today. A writer writes. If you want to be a writer, write. It's never too late to have a happy childhood, but the second one is up to you and no one else. When it comes to going after what you love in life, don't take no for an answer. Burn the candles, use the nice sheets, wear the fancy lingerie. Don't save it for a special occasion. Today is special. Over-prepare, then go with the flow. Be eccentric now. Don't wait for old age to wear purple. The most important sex organ is the brain. No one is in charge of your happiness except you. Frame every so-called disaster with these words. In 5 years, will this matter? Forgive everyone, everything. What other people think of you is none of your business. Time heals almost everything. Give time, time. However good or bad a situation is, it will change. Your job won't take care of you when you are sick. Your friends will. Stay in touch. Believe in miracles. Whatever doesn't kill you really does make you stronger. Growing old beats the alternative, dying young. Your children get only one childhood. Make it memorable. Get outside every day. Miracles are waiting everywhere. If we all threw our problems in a pile and saw everyone else's, we'd grab ours back. Don't audit life. Show up and make the most of it now. Get rid of anything that isn't useful, beautiful, or joyful. All that truly matters in the end is that you loved. Envy is a waste of time. You already have all you need. The best is yet to come. No matter how you feel, get up, dress up, and show up. Take a deep breath. It calms the mind. If you don't ask, you don't get. Yield. Life isn't tied with a bow, but it's still a gift.
Find strength in adversity. The truth is that our finest moments are most likely to occur when we are feeling deeply uncomfortable, unhappy, or unfulfilled. For it is only in such moments, propelled by our discomfort, that we are likely to step out of our ruts and start searching for different ways or truer answers. Be persistent. It's okay to be discouraged. It's not okay to quit. To know you want to quit, but to plant your feet and keep inching closer until you take the impenetrable fortress you've decided to lay siege to in your own life. That's persistence. Be resilient. It is essential to make oneself used to putting up with a little. Even the wealthy and the well-provided are continually met and frustrated by difficult times and situations. It is in no man's power to have whatever he wants, but he has it in his power not to wish for what he hasn't got, and cheerfully make the most of the things that do come his way. Believe in yourself. Not to assume it's impossible because you find it hard, but to recognize that if it's humanly possible, you can do it too. Live in the present. Focus on the moment, not the monster that may or may not be up ahead. Practice gratitude. We humans are unhappy in large part because we are insatiable. After working hard to get what we want, we routinely lose interest in the object of our desire. Rather than feeling satisfied, we feel a bit bored, and in response to this boredom, we go on to form even grander desires. Be kind. Life is so hard. How can we be anything but kind? Be the hero in your movie. Heroes are heroes because they are heroic in behavior, not because they won or lost. Control your mind. The wise man is neither raised up by prosperity nor cast down by adversity. For always he has striven to rely predominantly on himself and to derive all joy from himself. Adversity strengthens the mind. Do not cling tooth and nail to the following rule.
Be an outlier. People who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Ask questions. A wise man can learn more from a foolish question than a fool can learn from a wise answer. Take action. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. Never stop learning. Anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. Stay optimistic. The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty.
I am the wisest man alive, for I know one thing, and that is that I know nothing. A hero is born among 100. A wise man is found among 1,000. But an accomplished one might not be found even among 100,000 men. People are like dirt. They can either nourish you and help you grow as a person, or they can stunt your growth and make you wilt and die. Necessity is the mother of invention. To be afraid of death is only another form of thinking that one is wise when one is not. It is to think that one knows what one does not know. No one knows with regard to death whether it is not really the greatest blessing that can happen to man. But people dread it as though they were certain it is the greatest evil. Wealth is the parent of luxury and indolence, and poverty of meanness and viciousness, and both of discontent. The measure of a man is what he does with power. Good actions give strength to ourselves and inspire good actions in others. There are two things a person should never be angry at: what they can help and what they cannot. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a harder battle. Excellence is not a gift, but a skill that takes practice. We do not act rightly because we are excellent. In fact, we achieve excellence by acting rightly. The untrained mind keeps up a running commentary, labeling everything, judging everything. Best to ignore that commentary. Don't argue or resist, just ignore. Deprived of attention and interest, this voice gets quieter and quieter, and eventually just shuts up.
Welcome back to Everyday Stoic.
The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. Skillful pilots gain their reputation from storms and tempests. Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself. Seneca said, "We are often more frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in the imagination than reality." Marcus Aurelius coped by not allowing his thoughts to be overrun by negativity. The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it, he wrote in his nightly diary. Counseled Epictetus, "Other people's views and troubles can be contagious. Don't sabotage yourself by unwittingly adopting negative, unproductive attitudes through your associations with others." Marcus Aurelius devoted himself to do good to my fellow creatures and bear with them. Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for a kindness. We are waves of the same sea, leaves of the same tree, flowers of the same garden.
This is the National Institute of Hygiene and Epidemiology in Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam.
To my way of thinking is a better proof of a well-ordered mind than a man's ability to stop just where he is and pass some time in his own company. Until we have begun to go without them, we fail to realize how unnecessary many things are. We've been using them not because we needed them, but because we had them. The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control, and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Where then do I look for good and evil? Not to uncontrolled externals, but within myself to the choices that are my own. It stares you in the face. No role is so well suited to philosophy as the one you happen to be in right now. If you apply yourself to the task before you, following the right reasons seriously, vigorously, calmly, without allowing anything else to distract you, but keeping your divine part pure, as if you might be bound to give it back immediately. If you hold this, expecting nothing, fearing nothing, but satisfied with your present activities according to nature, and with heroic truth in every word and sound which you utter, you will live happily. And there is no man who is able to prevent this. Is any man afraid of change? What can take place without change? What then is more pleasing or suitable to the universal nature? And can you take a hot bath unless the wood for the fire undergoes a change? And can you be nourished unless the good undergoes a change? And can anything else that is useful be accomplished without change? Do you not see then that for yourself also to change is just the same, and equally necessary for the universal nature? When you're alone, you should call this condition tranquility and freedom, and think of yourself like the gods. And when you are with many, you shouldn't call it a crowd or trouble or uneasiness, but festival and company, and contentedly accept it. Epictetus. The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence call for your best. No matter how isolated you are and how lonely you feel, if you do you work truly and conscientiously, unknown friends will come and seek you. Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control and some things are not. It is only after you have faced up to this fundamental rule and learned to distinguish between what you can and can't control that inner tranquility and outer effectiveness become possible. If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, by which no one was ever truly harmed. It is the person who continues in his self-deception and ignorance who is harmed. Wild animals run from the dangers they actually see, and once they have escaped them, worry no more. We, however, are tormented alike by what is past and what is to come. A number of our blessings do us harm, for memory brings back the agony of fear, while foresight brings it on prematurely. No one confines his unhappiness to the present. To be everywhere is to be nowhere. If you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. It's ruinous for the soul to be anxious about the future and miserable in advance of misery, engulfed by anxiety that the things it desires might remain its own until the very end. For such a soul will never be at rest. By longing for things to come, it will lose the ability to enjoy present things. Don't let your reflection on the whole sweep of life crush you. Don't fill your mind with all the bad things that might still happen. Stay focused on the present situation and ask yourself why it's so unbearable and can't be survived. Frame your thoughts like this. You are an old person. You won't let yourself be enslaved by this any longer. No longer pulled like a puppet by every impulse. And you'll stop complaining about your present fortune or dreading the future.
Our suffering as a species, but never knew existed. The Taoism of Lao Tzu was about the way, the Tao, which is something we experience when we are more attentive to our inner and outer worlds. The Tao can be followed and experientially known when we have surrendered our control, conditioned identity over to the effortless realm of spontaneity and trust. The Tao is usually referred to as the way of nature, because when we follow the way, we can experience the same spontaneity of nature within our own experience. As a result, we trust our path through life. The discovery of this spontaneity in life allows us to sink deeply into the awareness that we are nature and not separate from any aspect of it.
My lord, this world will fall.
You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Today I escaped anxiety. Or no, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Accept the things to which fate binds. And fate brings you together, but do so with you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Whatever happens to you has been waiting to happen since the beginning of time. To live happily is an inward power of the soul. You can commit injustice by doing nothing. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Do every act of your life as if it were your last. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. The first step, don't be anxious. Nature controls it all. The second step, concentrate on what you have to do. Fix your eyes on it. Remind yourself that your task is to be a good human being. Remind yourself what nature demands of people. Then do it, without hesitation, and speak the truth as you see it, but with kindness, with humility, without hypocrisy. Don't be overheard complaining, not even to yourself. Do not be perturbed, for all things are according to the nature of the universal, and in a little time you will be nobody and nowhere. True good fortune is what you make for yourself. Good fortune, good character, good intentions, good actions. Let not your mind run on what you lack as much as on what you already have. Objective judgment, now, at this very moment. Unselfish action, now, at this very moment. Willing acceptance, now, at this very moment, of all external events. That's all you need. Almost nothing material is needed for a happy life, for he who has understood existence. Receive wealth or prosperity without arrogance, and be ready to let it go. For God's sake, stop honoring externals. Quit turning yourself into the tool of mere matter, or of people who can supply you or deny you those material things. man, when he has done a good act, does not call out for others to come and see, but he goes on to another act, as a vine goes on to produce again the grapes in season. Is any man afraid of change? What can take place without change? What then is more pleasing or more suitable to the universal nature? And can you take a hot bath unless the wood for the fire undergoes a change? And can you be nourished unless the food undergoes a change? And can anything else that is useful be accomplished without change? Do you not see then that for yourself also to change is just the same, and equally necessary for the universal nature? Receive without pride. Let go without attachment. When you have assumed these names, good, modest, truthful, rational, a man of equanimity and magnanimous, take care that you do not change these names, and if you should lose them, quickly return to them. I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinions of himself than on the opinions of others. Be content with what you are and wish not change, nor dread your last day, nor long for it. Consider that before long you will be nobody and nowhere, nor will any of these things exist that you now see, nor any of those who are now living. For all things are formed by nature to change and be turned and to perish, in order that other things in continuous succession may exist. In a word, if there is a God, all is well, and if chance rules, do not also be governed by it. So I look for the best and am prepared for the opposite. Treat whatever happens as wholly natural, not novel or hard to deal with, but familiar and easily handled. There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. A flourishing life cannot be achieved until we moderate our desires and see how superficial and fleeting they are. No man is free who is not master of himself. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Whoever does not regard what he has as most ample wealth is unhappy, though he be master of the world. When your thoughts, words, and deeds form a seamless fabric, you streamline your efforts and thus eliminate worry and dread. It's time to stop being vague. If you wish to be an extraordinary person, if you wish to be wise, then you should explicitly identify the kind of person you aspire to become. If you seek truth, you will not seek to gain a victory by every possible means. And when you have found truth, you need not fear being defeated. Let silence be your general rule, or say only what is necessary, and in few words. Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Although we can't control which roles are assigned to us, it must be our business to act our given role as best as we possibly can, and to refrain from complaining about it. Wherever you find yourself, and in whatever circumstances, give an impeccable performance. First learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak. Nothing great is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer you that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen. People are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them. Sometimes, even to live is an act of courage. True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future, not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient. For he that is so wants nothing. The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. All cruelty springs from weakness. There is no easy way from the earth to the stars. Difficulty strengthens the mind as labor does the body. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters. You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. Hang on to your youthful enthusiasms. You'll be able to use them better when you're older. If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favourable. It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable. It is not that we have so little time, but that we lose so much. The life we receive is not short, but we make it so. We are not ill provided, but we use what we have wastefully. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. Begin at once to live and count each separate day as a separate life. He who is brave is free. What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears. If you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person. No man was ever wise by chance. Until we have begun to go without them, we fail to realize how unnecessary many things are. We've been using them not because we needed them, but because we had them. They lose the day in the expectation of the night, and the night in fear of the dawn. Associate with people who are likely to improve you. He suffers more than necessary, who suffers before it is necessary. I shall never be ashamed of citing a bad author if the line is good. Only time can heal what reason cannot. Ignorance is the cause of fear. Putting things off is the biggest waste of life. It snatches away each day as it comes and denies us the present by promising the future. The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today. You are arranging what lies in fortune's control and abandoning what lies in yours. What are you looking at? To what goal are you straining? The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately. Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power. Life is like a play. It is not the length, but the excellence of the acting that matters. Wealth is the slave of a wise man, the master of a fool. Enjoy present pleasures in such a way as to not injure future ones. If you live in harmony with nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to what others think, you will never be rich. As long as you live, keep learning how to live. People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. The sun also shines on the wicked. Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant. A sword never kills anybody. It is a tool in the killer's hand. Leisure without books is death, and burial of a man alive. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Often a very old man has no other proof of his long life than his age. We learn not in school, but in life. A gift consists not in what is done or given, but in the intention of the giver or doer. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a harder battle. Every heart sings a song, incomplete until another heart whispers back. Those who wish to sing always find a song. At the touch of a lover, everyone becomes a poet. Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something. We can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when men are afraid of the light. Only the dead have seen the end of war. The price good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. Do not train a child to learn by force or harshness, but direct them to it by what amuses their minds, so that you may be better able to discover with accuracy the peculiar bent of the genius of each. The heaviest penalty for declining to rule is to be ruled by someone inferior to yourself. According to Greek mythology, humans were originally created with 4 arms, 4 legs, and a head with 2 faces. Fearing their power, Zeus split them into 2 separate parts, condemning them to spend their lives in search of their other halves. I am the wisest man alive, for I know one thing, and that is, I know nothing. Never discourage anyone who continually makes progress, no matter how slow. Love is a serious mental disease. One of the penalties of refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors. Good people do not need laws to tell them how to act responsibly, while bad people will find a way around the laws.
Tao Te Ching can be translated as the book of the immanence of the way, or the book of the way and of how it manifests itself in the world, or simply the book of the way. Since it is already well known by its Chinese title, I have let that stand. About Lao Tzu, its author, there's practically nothing to be said. He may have been an older contemporary of Confucius, 551 to 479 BCE, and may have held the position of archive keeper in one of the petty kingdoms of the time. But all the information that has come down to us is highly suspect. Even the meaning of his name is uncertain. The most likely interpretations, the old master, or more picturesquely, the old boy. Like an Iroquois woodsman, he left no traces. All he left us is his book, the classic manual on the art of living, written in a style of gem-like lucidity, radiant with humor and grace, and large-heartedness and deep wisdom, one of the wonders of the world. People usually think of Lao Tzu as a hermit, a dropout from society, dwelling serenely in some mountain hut, unvisited except perhaps by the occasional traveler arriving from a 60s joke to ask, "What is the meaning of life?" But it's clear from his teachings that he deeply cared about society, if society means the welfare of one's fellow human beings. His book is, among other things, a treatise on the art of government, whether of a country or of a child. The misperception may arise from his insistence on wei wu wei, literally doing, not doing, which has been seen as passivity. Nothing could be further from the truth. A good athlete can enter a state of body awareness in which the right stroke or the right movement happens by itself, effortlessly, without any interference of conscious will. This is a paradigm for non-action, the purest and most effective form of action. The game plays the game. The poem writes the poem. We can't tell the dancer from the dance. Less and less do you need to force things, until finally you arrive at non-action. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. Nothing is done because the doer has wholeheartedly vanished into the deed. The fuel has been completely transformed into flame. This nothing is in fact everything. It happens when we trust the intelligence of the universe in the same way that an athlete or a dancer trusts the superior intelligence of the body. Hence Lao Tzu's emphasis on softness. Softness means the opposite of rigidity and is synonymous with suppleness, adaptability, endurance. Anyone who has seen a Tai Chi or Aikido master doing not doing will know how powerful this softness is. Lao Tzu's central figure is a man or woman whose life is in perfect harmony with the way things are. This is not an idea, it is a reality. I have seen it. The master has mastered nature, not in the sense of conquering it, but of becoming it. In surrendering to the Tao, in giving up all concepts, judgments, and desires, her mind has grown naturally compassionate. She finds, deep in her own experience, the central truths of the art of living, which are paradoxical only on the surface, that the more truly solitary we are, the more compassionate we can be. The more we let go of what we love, the more present our love becomes. The clearer our insight into what is beyond good and evil, the more we can embody the good. Until finally she is able to say, in all humility, I am the Tao, the truth, the life. The teaching of the Tao Te Ching is moral in the deepest sense. Unencumbered by any concept of sin, the master doesn't see evil as a force to resist, but simply as an opaqueness, a state of self-absorption which is in disharmony with the universal process, so that, as with a dirty window, the light can't shine through. This freedom from moral categories allows him his great compassion for the wicked and the selfish. Thus, the master is available to all people and doesn't reject anyone. He is ready to use all situations and doesn't waste anything. This is called embodying the light. What is a good man but a bad man's teacher? What is a bad man but a good man's job? If you don't understand this, you will get lost, however intelligent you are. It is the great secret. The listener will notice that in the many passages where Lao Tzu describes the master, I've used the pronoun she at least as often as he. The Chinese language doesn't make this kind of distinction. In English, we have to choose. But since we are all potentially the master, since the master is essentially us, I felt it would be untrue to present a male archetype, as other versions have ironically done. Ironically, because of all the great world religions, the teaching of Lao Tzu is by far the most female. Of course, you should feel free throughout the recording to substitute he for she, or vice versa. As to method, I worked from Paul Carus's literal version, which provides English equivalents, often very quaint ones, alongside each of the Chinese ideograms. I also consulted dozens of translations into English, German, and French. But the most essential preparation for my work was a 14 years long course of Zen training, which brought me face to face with Lao Tzu and his true disciples and heirs, the early Chinese Zen masters. With great poetry, the freest translation is sometimes the most faithful. We must try its effect as an English poem, Dr. Johnson said. That is the way to judge of the merit of a translation. I have often been fairly literal, or as literal as one can be with such a subtle, kaleidoscopic book as the Tao Te Ching. But I have also paraphrased, expanded, contracted, interpreted, worked with the text, played with it, until it became embodied in a language that felt genuine to me. If I haven't always translated Lao Tzu's words, my intention has always been to translate his mind. Describing the indescribable, teaching the unteachable, pointing the way to the way. What does Lao Tzu think he is doing here? It can't be done. No way. Hence, Po Chu-yi, poet and stand-up comedian, wrote, "He who talks doesn't know, he who knows doesn't talk." That is what Lao Tzu told us in a book of 5,000 words. If he was the one who knew, how could he have been such a blabbermouth? That's the problem with spiritual teachers. They have to be blabbermouths. But their words are, in the traditional Buddhist metaphor, fingers pointing at the moon. If you watch the finger, you can't see the moon. How meticulous the great masters had to be. A monk asked Matsu, "Why do you teach mind is Buddha?" Matsu said, "To stop a baby from crying." The monk said, "When the crying has stopped, what then?" Matsu said, "Then I teach, not mind, not Buddha." The monk said, "How about someone who isn't attached to either?" Matsu said, "I would tell him, not beings." The monk said, "And what if you met a man unattached to all things? What would you tell him?" Matsu said, "I would just let him experience the great Tao." In fact, the truth is right before our eyes, right under our noses. So simple that every child understands it. And yet, as Bankei said, the farther you enter into it, the deeper it is. Where is the way to the way? What a question. Still, for complicated minds, drastic measures are needed. Lao Tzu's book was written as a response out of grandmotherly kindness. According to the oldest biography, Lao Tzu lived for a long time in the country of Chu, but seeing its decline, he departed. When he reached the frontier, the guard said, Since you are going away, sir, could you write a book to teach me the art of living? Thereupon, Lao Tzu wrote his book about the Tao and departed. This is legend, but it is an accurate description of the way in which true teaching happens. He who knows doesn't talk, but words are no hindrance for him. He uses them as he would use gardening tools. When someone asks, he answers. Tao De Jing. 1. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. Yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. This source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness. The gateway to all understanding. 2. When people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. Being and non-being create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. Long and short define each other. High and low depend on each other. Before and after follow each other. Therefore, the master acts without doing anything and teaches without saying anything. Things arise, and she lets them come. Things disappear, and she lets them go. She has, but doesn't possess, acts, but doesn't expect. When her work is done, she forgets it. That is why it lasts forever. 3. If you overesteem great men, people become powerless. If you overvalue possessions, people begin to steal. The master leads by emptying people's minds and filling their cores, by weakening their ambition and toughening their resolve. He helps people lose everything they know, everything they desire, and creates confusion in those who think that they know. Everything they desire. Practice not doing, and everything will fall into place. Everything they desire. Practice 4. The Tao is like a well, used but never used up. It is like the eternal void, filled with infinite possibilities. It is hidden but always present. I don't know who gave birth to it. It is older than God. 5. The Tao doesn't take sides. It gives birth to both good and evil. The master doesn't take sides. She welcomes both saints and sinners. The Tao is like a bellows. It is empty, yet infinitely capable. The more you use it, the more it produces. The more you talk of it, the less you understand. Hold on to the center. 6. The Tao is called the Great Mother. Empty, yet inexhaustible, it gives birth to infinite worlds. It is always present within you. You can use it any way you want. 7. The Tao is infinite, eternal. Why is it eternal? It was never born, thus it can never die. Why is it infinite? It has no desires for itself, thus it is present for all beings. The Master stays behind, that is why she is ahead. She is detached from all things, that is why she is one with them. Because she has let go of herself, she is perfectly fulfilled. 8. The Supreme Good is like water, which nourishes all things without trying to. It is content with the low places that people disdain. Thus, it is like the Tao. In dwelling, live close to the ground. In thinking, keep to the simple. In conflict, be fair and generous. In governing, don't try to control. In work, do what you enjoy. In family life, be completely present. When you are content to be simply yourself and don't compare or compete, everybody will respect you. 9. Fill your bowl to the brim, and it will spill. Keep sharpening your knife, and it will blunt. Chase after money and security, and your heart will never unclench. Care about people's approval, and you will be their prisoner. Do your work, then step back. The only path to serenity. 10. Can you coax your mind from its wandering and keep to the original oneness? Can you let your body become supple as a newborn child's? Can you cleanse your inner vision until you see nothing but the light? Can you love people and lead them without imposing your will? Can you deal with the most vital matters by letting events take their course? Can you step back from your own mind and thus understand all things? Giving birth and nourishing, having without possessing, acting with no expectations, leading and not trying to control. This is the supreme virtue. (11) We join spokes together in a wheel, but it is the center hole that makes the wagon move. We shape clay into a pot, but it is the emptiness inside that holds whatever we want. We hammer wood for a house, but it is the inner space that makes it livable. We work with being, but non-being is what we use. 12. Colors blind the eye. Sounds deafen the ear. Flavors numb the taste. Thoughts weaken the mind. Desires wither the heart. The master observes the world, but trusts his inner vision. He allows things to come and go. His heart is open as the sky. 13. Success is as dangerous as failure. Hope is as hollow as fear. What does it mean that success is as dangerous as failure? Whether you go up the ladder or down it, your position is shaky. When you stand with your 2 feet on the ground, you will always keep your balance. What does it mean that hope is as hollow as fear? Hope and fear are both phantoms that arise from thinking of the self. When we don't see the self as self, what do we have to fear? See the world as yourself. Have faith in the way things are. Love the world as yourself. Then you can care for all things. 14. Look, and it can't be seen. Listen, and it can't be heard. Reach, and it can't be grasped. Above, it isn't bright. Below, it isn't dark. Seamless, unnameable, it returns to the realm of nothing. Form that includes all forms. Image without an image. Subtle, beyond all conception. Approach it, and there is no beginning. Follow it, and there is no end. You can't know it, but you can be it, at ease in your own life. Just realize where you come from. This is the essence of wisdom. 15. The ancient masters were profound and subtle. Their wisdom was unfathomable. There is no way to describe it. All we can describe is their appearance. They were careful as someone crossing an iced-over stream, alert as a warrior in enemy territory, courteous as a guest, fluid as melting ice, shapeable as a block of wood, receptive as a valley, clear as a glass of water. Do you have the patience to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? The master doesn't seek fulfillment. Not seeking, not expecting. She is present and can welcome all things. 16. Empty your mind of all thoughts. Let your heart be at peace. Watch the turmoil of beings, but contemplate their return. Each separate being in the universe returns to the common source. Returning to the source is serenity. If you don't realize the source, you stumble in confusion and sorrow. When you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind-hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king. Immersed in the wonder of the Tao, you can deal with whatever life brings you. And when death comes, you are ready. 17. When the master governs, the people are hardly aware that he exists. Next best is a leader who is loved. Next, one who is feared. The worst is one who is despised. If you don't trust the people, you make them untrustworthy. The master doesn't talk, he acts. When his work is done, the people say, "Amazing, we did it, all by ourselves." 18. When the great Tao is forgotten, goodness and piety appear. When the body's intelligence declines, cleverness and knowledge step forth. When there is no peace in the family, filial piety begins. When the country falls into chaos, patriotism is born. 19. Throw away holiness and wisdom, and people will be 100 times happier. Throw away morality and justice, and people will do the right thing. Throw away industry and profit, and there won't be any thieves. If these three aren't enough, just stay at the center of the circle and let all things take their course. 20. Stop thinking and end your problems. What difference between yes and no? What difference between success and failure? Must you value what others value, avoid what others avoid? How ridiculous. Other people are excited, as though they were at a parade. I alone don't care. I alone am expressionless, like an infant before it can smile. Other people have what they need. I alone possess nothing. I alone drift about like someone without a home. I am like an idiot, my mind is so empty. Other people are bright. I alone am dark. Other people are sharp. I alone am dull. Other people have a purpose. I alone don't know. I drift like a wave on the ocean. I blow as aimless as the wind. I am different from ordinary people. I drink from the great mother's breasts. 21. The master keeps her mind always at one with the Tao. That is what gives her her radiance. The Tao is ungraspable. How can her mind be at one with it? Because she doesn't cling to ideas. The Tao is dark and unfathomable. How can it make her radiant? Because she lets it. Since before time and space were, the Tao is. It is beyond is and is not. How do I know this is true? I look inside myself and see. 22. If you want to become whole, let yourself be partial. If you want to become straight, let yourself be crooked. If you want to become full, let yourself be empty. If you want to be reborn, let yourself die. If you want to be given everything, give everything up. The Master, by residing in the Tao, sets an example for all beings. Because he doesn't display himself, people can see his light. Because he has nothing to prove, people can trust his words. Because he doesn't know who he is, people recognize themselves in him. Because he has no goal in mind, everything he does succeeds. When the ancient masters said, "If you want to be given everything, give everything up," they weren't using empty phrases. Only in being lived by the Tao can you be truly yourself. 23. Express yourself completely, then keep quiet. Be like the forces of nature. When it blows, there is only wind. When it rains, there is only rain. When the clouds pass, the sun shines through. If you open yourself to the Tao, you are at one with the Tao, and you can embody it completely. If you open yourself to insight, you are at one with insight, and you can use it completely. If you open yourself to loss, you are at one with loss, and you can accept it completely. Open yourself to the Tao, then trust your natural responses, and everything will fall into place. 24. He who stands on tiptoe doesn't stand firm. He who rushes ahead doesn't go far. He who tries to shine dims his own light. He who defines himself can't know who he really is. He who has power over others can't empower himself. He who clings to his work will create nothing that endures. If you want to accord with the Tao, just do your job, then let go. 25. There was something formless and perfect before the universe was born. It is serene, empty, solitary, unchanging, infinite, eternally present. It is the mother of the universe. For lack of a better name, I call it the Tao. It flows through all things, inside and outside, and returns to the origin of all things. The Tao is great. The universe is great. Earth is great. Man is great. These are the four great powers. Man follows the earth. Earth follows the universe. The universe follows the Tao. The Tao follows only itself. 26. The heavy is the root of the light. The unmoved is the source of all movement. Thus the master travels all day without leaving home. However splendid the views, she stays serenely in herself. Why should the lord of the country flit about like a fool? If you let yourself be blown to and fro, you lose touch with your root. If you let restlessness move you, you lose touch with who you are. 27. A good traveler has no fixed plans and is not intent upon arriving. A good artist lets his intuition lead him wherever it wants. A good scientist has freed himself of concepts and keeps his mind open to what is. Thus the master is available to all people and doesn't reject anyone. He is ready to use all situations and doesn't waste anything. This is called embodying the light. What is a good man but a bad man's teacher? What is a bad man but a good man's job? If you don't understand this, you will get lost, however intelligent you are. It is the great secret. 28. Know the male, yet keep to the female. Receive the world in your arms. If you receive the world, the Tao will never leave you, and you will be like a little child. Know the white, yet keep to the black. Be a pattern for the world. If you are a pattern for the world, the Tao will be strong inside you, and there will be nothing you can't do. Know the personal, yet keep to the impersonal. Accept the world as it is. If you accept the world, the Tao will be luminous inside you, and you will return to your primal self. The world is formed from the void, like utensils from a block of wood. The master knows the utensils, yet keeps to the block. Thus she can use all things. 29. Do you want to improve the world? I don't think it can be done. The world is sacred. It can't be improved. If you tamper with it, you'll ruin it. If you treat it like an object, you'll lose it. There is a time for being ahead, a time for being behind, a time for being in motion, a time for being at rest, a time for being vigorous, a time for being exhausted, a time for being safe, a time for being in danger. The master sees things as they are without trying to control them. She lets them go their own way and resides at the center of the circle. 30. Whoever relies on the Tao in governing men doesn't try to force issues or defeat enemies by force of arms. For every force, there is a counterforce. Violence, even well-intentioned, always rebounds upon oneself. The master does his job and then stops. He understands that the universe is forever out of control, and that trying to dominate events goes against the current of the Tao. Because he believes in himself, he doesn't try to convince others. Because he is content with himself, he doesn't need others' approval. Because he accepts himself, the whole world accepts him. 31. Weapons are the tools of violence. All decent men detest them. Weapons are the tools of fear. A decent man will avoid them, except in the direst necessity, and if compelled, will use them only with the utmost restraint. Peace is his highest value. If the peace has been shattered, how can he be content? His enemies are not demons, but human beings like himself. He doesn't wish them personal harm, nor does he rejoice in victory. How could he rejoice in victory and delight in the slaughter of men? He enters a battle gravely, with sorrow, and with great